Horror, at its core, is extremely subjective. Is it the stomach-churning, unrelenting gore factor of visceral violence? For some, that is terrifying. For others, it's boring. For myself, I find it quite funny. So extreme violence can be considered not horror for many, many people. If we take the juxtaposition of normal everyday objects or people and place them out of context, for example, an eye placed on an unnatural part of the body, the palm of the hand, the chest, the brow, or a beautiful painting of an ordinary scene but reflected in a mirror somewhere lost in the details is the image of a corpse. These are the things that unsettle us. It disconnects us from what we recognise and places us into the uncertain, the unknown. And the unknown is genuinely quite terrifying. What we don't understand can crawl at our skin and make us want to turn away. Shock factor, the sudden jump, the sudden switch of gears from the quiet, sedate scene to the bam factor as something slams into our face and lifts us out the chair with a sudden jump. And of course, there's real world horror, murder, rape, abduction. These tap into our fear of how vulnerable we might be. Vulnerability is, I think, one of the strongest ways to convey horror. The vulnerability is equal to fragility. If we see something that we recognise as a safe place, somewhere where we can be at ease, but it is under threat, overwhelmed, then that, I think, is a driving factor in unsettling our deepest senses. So as I discuss some of these horrific ideas in more detail, you're going to see me here creating this evil creature drawn up from the depths of a hell that is fueled by the souls of humanity. I believe that no matter which route of horror we're going to take in our work, we need to set up, first of all, the very initial idea that there is a danger, that there is a threat. In film as well as in traditional art, this can be set up by the colour palette. We associate reds with danger, and so that's a great colour to work with to present the idea of danger. And other colours can fit into that subtext also. The supernatural is often associated with, for example, purples and blues, the sort of moonlight, midnight colour scheme. Poisons are often associated with greens and yellows throughout artistic history. And so with the painting that I'm doing in the background here, that's the colour palette that I'm after. I don't want blood and gore because, well, that I don't find that scary myself. It won't tap into my own internal instinct of what scares me. But the idea of poisons, the idea of disease, the idea of corruption, that does scare me. And so to invest in my own piece of work, that's the colour palette of choice. I'm a great lover of texture in my work. I find that the layering of paint and texture, be that implied or physical texture, add a sense of mystery, a sense of the unknown, another of the factors that I believe is a strong element of creating a horror piece. That sense of lost detail, hinted at rather than prescribed clearly. I really enjoy that kind of part of the process in my work. And I also think it lends itself very well to working with the abstractions that come from creating texture to help lead your imagination down the proverbial rabbit hole of whatever subject it is that you're chasing. And in this instance, that, of course, is horror. It can be considered difficult to summon up an image of the unknown because by the very definition of us creating it, it becomes known to us. We have a concept or an idea that we want to convey in our piece of work. But we can still portray it in a way that causes the viewer to try and understand or to be unsettled by the unknown. Here I've created a creature which is somewhat difficult to discern, trying to figure out its features, where its eyes might be, where its mouth might be, are not immediately evident. We know that there is definitely a bipedal body form of some type. There is a head and shoulders up here at the top, but we still have to pick apart what is actually going on there. What is it that it's doing to this skull? What is it drawing from it? What is this stuff that's spouting out these kind of vents almost at the rear of its shoulders? What exactly is going on here? That is left for the viewer to determine. That is left for the viewer to be scared by. It is left for the viewer to be unsettled by. As I said at the beginning, I find one of the most deeply disturbing aspects of horror is this idea that we are vulnerable, that a force that is overwhelming, no matter where we might find a place of safety, is really disturbing. I think this can apply to real world horror as portrayed in film. We consider our homes, our religions, our friends a place of safety. And if those are overwhelmed by whatever the threat is, we have nowhere left to go. And I think that really captures the essence of horror, is if you have nowhere left to run.